In 1928, a young animator stepped off a train in Los Angeles with empty pockets and a shattered dream. His most successful character had just been stolen out from under him by the very people he trusted. He had no money, no studio, and almost no reason to hope. Yet within his mind, a tiny idea was forming. A small mouse with big ears that would soon conquer the world. This man would go on to win 22 Academy Awards, redefine cinema, and build an empire that still enchants billions today. But the road there was paved with bankruptcy, betrayal, and gambles so reckless they should have destroyed him. This is the story of Walt Disney, the dreamer who refused to quit. Walter Elias Disney was born on December 5, 1901, in Chicago, Illinois, the fourth of 5 children in a hard-working, often struggling family. His father, Elias, was a stern and demanding man whose financial failures kept the family constantly on the move. When Walt was just 4, they relocated to a farm in Marceline, Missouri. Those few years in the countryside would become the emotional heart of everything Walt later created. The rolling fields, the animals, the simple Main Street of small-town America. He would spend his life trying to recapture that lost paradise. But money troubles forced another move, this time to Kansas City, where young Walt rose before dawn to deliver newspapers in the freezing cold for his father's route. He was exhausted, but he was also dreaming. He discovered a love for drawing, sketching the animals he remembered and copying cartoons from the newspaper. At school he doodled constantly, entertaining his classmates. During World War I, a teenage Walt lied about his age to join the Red Cross as an ambulance driver in France. And even there, he covered his vehicle in cartoons. When he returned home, he made a decision that horrified his practical father. He would become an artist. He landed a job at a commercial art studio, where he met a quiet, talented illustrator named Ub Iwerks. Together, these two young men began experimenting with a brand new art form that almost no one took seriously: animation. It was a humble, uncertain beginning, but Walt had found his calling, and nothing would stop him from chasing it. Walt's first business, Laugh-O-Gram Studios in Kansas City, ended in spectacular failure and bankruptcy. So in 1923, with barely $40 to his name, he boarded a train to Hollywood to start over. Together with his loyal brother Roy, he founded the Disney Brothers Studio. His first real success came with a clever series called The Alice Comedies, blending live action and animation. Then came Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, a charming character that became genuinely popular. Walt thought he'd finally made it, but in 1928, disaster struck. When Walt traveled to New York to negotiate a better deal, his distributor revealed a devastating truth. He legally owned Oswald, and he had quietly hired away most of Walt's animators. Walt had been betrayed and stripped of his own creation. On the long train ride home, gutted and humiliated, Walt began to sketch. He needed a new character, one he would own completely. He imagined a cheerful little mouse. He wanted to call him Mortimer, but his wife Lillian suggested something friendlier: Mickey. With Ub Iwerks, who had stayed loyal, Walt brought Mickey to life. Their third Mickey cartoon, Steamboat Willie, premiered in November 1928, and it was revolutionary. It was one of the first cartoons with fully synchronized sound, with Walt himself voicing the squeaky little mouse. Audiences were spellbound. They had never seen anything like it. Mickey Mouse became an overnight sensation, a worldwide phenomenon. Out of betrayal and failure, Walt had created something no one could ever take from him again. Mickey made Walt famous, but Walt was never content to repeat himself. While other studios churned out simple gags, Walt pushed animation toward something richer: emotion, storytelling, and beauty. In 1932, his Silly Symphonies Short Flowers and Trees became the first full-color cartoon, winning the very first Academy Award for animated short film. But Walt's wildest ambition was still to come. In the mid-1930s, he announced he would make a feature-length animated film, a 90-minute fairy tale. Hollywood was baffled. The press mockingly called it Disney's folly, certain that audiences would never sit through a full-length cartoon, and that the eye strain alone would drive them away. Walt mortgaged his house and poured every dollar he had into the project. That film was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. He demanded unprecedented detail, pioneering the multiplane camera to create breathtaking depth, and pushing his artists to give the characters real feeling. When Snow White premiered in December 1937, the audience didn't just watch. They wept and cheered. It became the highest-grossing film of its time and proved animation could be true art. With the profits, Walt built a sprawling new studio in Burbank and launched a golden age of masterpieces. Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, and Bambi. He fused classical music with abstract imagery, blended comedy with genuine heartbreak, and elevated cartoons into emotional epics. Then, decades later, Walt would gamble everything again on an idea even crazier than a feature cartoon. A magical place where families could step inside his stories. In 1955, Disneyland opened its gates in Anaheim, California. Critics called it impossible. It became the most famous theme park on Earth. Walt Disney didn't just make films, he built worlds. But Walt's empire was always built on the edge of ruin. Pinocchio and Fantasia, though brilliant, lost enormous amounts of money when World War II cut off his crucial European audiences. The studio plunged deep into debt. Then, in 1941, came a wound that cut even deeper. Walt saw himself as a benevolent father to his artists. So when many of them went on strike demanding fair pay and union recognition, he felt personally betrayed. The bitter strike fractured the studio's family atmosphere forever, and Walt never fully recovered from the heartbreak. During the war, his studio was reduced to making propaganda and training films just to survive. Critics whispered that Walt Disney's best days were behind him. He battled crushing anxiety, chain-smoked relentlessly, and at times sank into deep depression. Yet again and again, Walt found a way forward. He embraced the new medium of television, becoming a familiar face in living rooms across America. He poured his restless imagination into Disneyland when bankers refused to fund it, raising the money himself, where others saw only risk and failure. Walt saw possibility. His secret was never simply talent. It was an almost reckless courage to bet everything on his dreams, and the resilience to rise again every single time he fell. Walt Disney died on December 15, 1966, just 10 days after his 65th birthday, while dreaming up his most ambitious project yet, a futuristic city he called Epcot. He never saw it completed, but what he left behind reshaped the modern world. Walt won a record 22 Academy Awards, more than any individual in history. He transformed animation from a cheap novelty into a respected art form capable of making millions laugh and cry. He invented the modern theme park. He pioneered synchronized sound, full-color cartoons, and the multiplane camera. But his greatest legacy isn't technology or trophies. It's the feeling. Every child who gasps at a fairy tale castle. Every family that steps onto Main Street, USA. Every artist who believes a drawing can hold a soul. Carries a piece of Walt's dream. The company he built with his brother Roy grew into one of the largest entertainment empires on Earth. Yet it all began with a man, a pencil, and the stubborn belief that imagination could change everything. As Walt himself once said, all our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. Walt Disney proved that failure is never the end of the story. It's only the beginning of the next dream. From a bankrupt cartoonist to the architect of a global empire, he never stopped believing that imagination could move the world. And maybe that's the real magic he left behind. The reminder that the boldest dreams are worth chasing, no matter how many times we fall. If you enjoyed this journey through animation history, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Because here at Animation Legends, we're just getting started. Tell us in the comments, what's your favorite Disney classic? Thanks for watching, and keep dreaming.